Jeopardy! Super champion Scott Riccardi explained his final incorrect answer after fans spread a conspiracy theory that he lost his last game on purpose. Scott's 16-day streak came to an end after he entered the leaderboard of legends in two categories, number 8 for highest winnings in regular game play with $455,000 and tying for number 10 with Ryan Long for most consecutive games won with 16. During his last game, Scott answered the final Jeopardy! Question incorrectly, which cost him the game. The category was 20th century names. The clue was, according to one obituary, in 1935 he owned 13 magazines, 8 radio stations, 2 movie companies, and $56 million in real estate. Both of Scott's challengers, Jonathan Hugendubler and Charlotte Cooper, answered correctly with William Randolph Hearst. However, Scott wrote Howard Hughes, and lost the game to Jonathan, ending his 16-day streak on the last day of Jeopardy! Season 41. Since Scott was such an extraordinary competitor, many fans believed that he lost his last game on purpose, taking to social media to discuss the conspiracy theory. Some fans felt that the question was too easy for Scott to have gotten wrong, and that he threw the game because he didn't want to play anymore. In a Jeopardy! Reddit thread, Scott didn't respond to the conspiracy theory directly, but he did address his loss, beginning with offering congratulations to his two competitors, winner Jonathan and Charlotte. He then explained why he got the final Jeopardy! Question wrong, stating that he trusted his gut when the answer first came to him. Scott wrote, "As for Final Jeopardy! My mind unfortunately went straight to Howard Hughes mostly due to overestimating the importance of the movie company's part of the clue. Any previous FJs that had come to mind immediately had worked out, so I trusted my initial response on this." Scott revealed that he didn't realize his answer was wrong right away. He said, "Hearst wasn't on my mind at all until the moment Charlotte's answer was revealed, and even then it didn't immediately strike me as correct until Ken confirmed it." Scott then admitted that he wasn't prepared to answer a question about William Randolph Hearst correctly. He wrote, "Truthfully, I was just especially unprepared to respond correctly to a clue about Hearst." Scott explained, "I made a mental note before flying out that I was consistently forgetting to consider, of all things, Citizen Kane and the Tower of London as responses whenever they came up in archived practice clues. In the green room that week, I reminded myself about the Tower of London but could not remember the other half of that mental note." Scott also confessed that he struggled with remembering information about Hearst. He wrote, "Also, before I started my prep for the show in earnest, I had found that I was having a hard time properly retaining info on what I found to be a confusing amount of 3 named Williams in publishing, William Randolph Hearst, William Lloyd Garrison, and William F. Buckley, to name a few, never circling back to that thought after I got the call to be on the show." Scott concluded by explaining why he got the question wrong, writing, "So several information near misses and a poor understanding of the timeline in the clue really piled up to prevent me from getting what I now understand to be a very gettable clue." Anytime that a Jeopardy! Super Champions streak ends, fans find it hard to believe that they got a question wrong or didn't earn enough money to win, and so the conspiracy theories follow. In Scott's case, many fans thought that the final Jeopardy! Was too easy for him to have missed, which led to their shock and skepticism, but he explained very clearly why it happened. Just because some fans knew the final Jeopardy! Answer and thought that it was simple doesn't mean that Scott did. These Jeopardy! Conspiracy theories are actually a testament to how amazing of a player Scott was because fans simply couldn't believe that he'd ever make a mistake answering what they perceived to be an easy question. I don't believe the conspiracy theory that Scott threw his last Jeopardy! Game. He has too much love and respect for the show to do something like that. Plus, he was in the lead going into Final Jeopardy! If Scott really wanted to lose the game, he could have simply not buzzed in for some of the questions. I remember when the streaks of Ken Jennings and James Holzhauer came to an end, and many people believed that they threw their final games as well. It seems to be a pattern with Jeopardy! Fans that they can't accept that the Super Champions can legitimately lose. The Super Champions seem to be infallible, but their streaks do inevitably end. I related to Scott because I had the same answer that he did for Final Jeopardy! I understand how he made that mistake, and I believe that he didn't mean to do it. Scott is now one of my all-time favorite players and a new legend of the game, and I can't wait to see him compete again in the Jeopardy! Tournament of Champions and, hopefully, Jeopardy! Masters Season 4 as well. For Jeopardy! Fans, the game show is sacred ground, a competition of intellect, memory, and strategy. But in recent days, the online community has been ablaze with accusations and wild theories after fan favorite contestant Scott Riccardi, a high school history teacher from Vermont, shockingly lost after a 4-game winning streak. What began as simple speculation turned into a full-blown conspiracy theory, suggesting that Scott intentionally threw the game. Now, Scott is finally breaking his silence. The game that sparked the fire. The controversy stems from Scott's final episode, where he wagered an unusually small amount in Final Jeopardy despite having a clear lead. With $19,400 going into the final clue, and his nearest competitor trailing at $10,200, fans expected Scott to bet enough to secure a win even if he answered incorrectly. But instead, he wagered just $401. And when he got the Final Jeopardy question wrong, his competitor answered correctly, overtaking him and ending Scott's streak. Social media immediately exploded. Why would Scott only bet $401? One user posted on X, formerly Twitter. He could have locked the game with a conservative $1,001 bet. This doesn't make sense unless he wanted to lose. TikTok creators and Reddit threads dug even deeper, with some alleging Scott was asked to lose. Others suggested he was protecting a friend backstage or had an unspoken deal. A few went so far as to call it the most suspicious Jeopardy loss in recent memory. Scott breaks his silence. Amid the whirlwind of speculation, Scott Riccardi had remained silent, until now. In an exclusive interview with a Vermont radio station, WCVT, and a follow-up statement posted to his personal blog, Scott finally addressed the conspiracy theories. "Let me be very clear," he began. "I did not lose on purpose. I would never disrespect the game, the audience, or the other contestants like that." Scott explained that in the moment, his wager was based on a miscalculation and a gut instinct. "I've watched Jeopardy! Since I was 10 years old. When you're actually up there, under the lights, it's easy to overthink. I knew I had a lead, but I was overly cautious. I thought, what if they both get it wrong? I made a split-second decision that I thought would cover most bases. Clearly, it didn't." Scott admitted he was just as heartbroken as his supporters were. "I didn't sleep well for a few nights afterward. When I saw the comments online accusing me of throwing the game, it honestly hurt. I love this game. I studied for it. I prepared flashcards. I ran mock games in my living room with my wife. I didn't want to go out that way." A deeper look at the fan theories. While Scott's response has cooled many tempers, the conspiracy theories had grown wildly creative in the days after the episode aired. Some fans theorized that Scott had already reached a monetary cap, a completely false assumption, since there's no limit on regular play winnings on Jeopardy! Others believed he had been tipped off by producers that it was time for a fresh face. "I can promise you, no one at Jeopardy! ever pressured me," Scott said. "The production team was professional, kind, and totally uninvolved in gameplay decisions. Any idea that I was told to lose is completely fictional." In fact, Scott revealed that he had every intention of continuing his streak. "I packed 5 shirts, hoping I'd be there for 5 more games. I even had a fresh blazer waiting for the next taping day." Support from former contestants. Scott's response has earned support from past Jeopardy! Champions who understand the pressure of the podium. James Holzhauer, known for his aggressive betting strategy and historic streak, took to X to defend Scott. "Anyone who thinks Scott threw the game has never stood behind the podium," Holzhauer posted. "Split-second decisions plus mental fatigue equals mistakes. That's it." Amy Schneider, another beloved contestant, echoed similar sentiments in an Instagram story. "Scott was a joy to watch. Losing doesn't always mean something shady happened. It just means the game played out in an unexpected way." Moving on, and what's next? Scott says that, despite the noise, he's grateful for the experience. "It was the thrill of a lifetime. I got to meet Ken Jennings. I got to hear Johnny Gilbert say my name. And I got to prove to myself that I could hang with the best of them." He's also making plans to return to the classroom this fall and says his students have had a blast teasing him. "One of my juniors walked in with a dry erase board showing my Final Jeopardy wager and wrote 'We love you but why?'" Scott laughed. "It's all in good fun." He's not ruling out a return, either. "If the producers ever call for a second chance tournament, I'd be there in a heartbeat. And this time, I'd double-check my math." A lesson in sportsmanship. In the wake of the online frenzy, Scott's story serves as a reminder that even the smartest contestants are human. The pressure of playing in front of millions, the unpredictability of trivia, and the ticking clock can result in decisions that fans behind a screen might never fully understand. "I appreciate everyone who cheered me on and even those who question what happened," Scott concluded in his blog. "At the end of the day, Jeopardy! is about learning, curiosity, and passion. And I still feel all of those things, maybe now more than ever. As the dust settles, fans may finally begin to see Scott Riccardi not as a player who lost on purpose, but as a real person who gave it his all, and who, despite a misstep, made a lasting mark on the Jeopardy legacy.